Welcome to the Nailed It Wall.
On this week's episode of the Nailed It Wall, we're going to talk about the A.c.C Sci-Tech Festival kickoff event. We'll also talk about Sierra Verde's business partner breakfast. And we're also going to talk about the struggles teachers face when it comes to purchasing new technology. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to the Nailed It Wall. I'm Mr. Lane, the STEM guy.
And I'm Mrs. Scofield.
As always, we like to start our week off talking about our highs and our lows. That's why we call it the Nailed It Wall. Mm-hmm. So I know you got some great stories this week. Why don't you start us off?
All right. So my nailed it in a good way was this coming week. You and I are going to be out for a conference type thing. And so I knew I was going to have a sub, and I wanted the sub to do a review day. And so I've realized that I kind of need to set these kids up for new things like, just new experiences, whether it's Gizmos or Kahoot or whatever. It's something that they haven't tried before. So I decided that I'm going to do Quizlet Live, which both of us are huge fans of. And so I wanted them to have kind of like a practice round with it. And so I rolled that out with my kids on Friday, and they absolutely went bonkers for it. It was such a success, and saw where the kinks were ahead of time. Like some of the things had trouble with connectivity and checking to see, can we use iPads, logging in with the QR scan and all that. So it was a huge, huge success.
And the pictures you posted on Twitter were pretty amazing.
They were. Twitter is so hard. You only get the 4 pictures, so it's really limiting.
I feel why I like to do the threads. I like to do like tweets on top of tweets. You're like, how did you do that?
I know.
Who responds to their own tweets?
You're basically a wizard. And so that part of it, and then
can you explain what Quizlet Live is for those that might not know what Quizlet Live is?
Quizlet Live is the best thing ever. Actually, I learned about it from my daughter, who says in the high school level in bio they use that quite a bit, and it's similar to I guess it would be similar to Kahoot and to Gimkit, but it's super collaborative. And, it's a way to kind of review materials of any kind of content. So you and I have used it in our Google class to get exposure to different things. But basically, it's like information about whatever content you're trying to cover. But each kid has a computer or an iPad, and they have one of the people in their group has the right answer. So they have to see what everybody has in order to know which one to select. So there's whatever set of questions that you're given, and your team is racing to answer as many as they can, but they have to work together to get that right. And I like it because every time you start a new group set, it mixes the kids up into different groups, and so they have to work with a variety of people, and they're kind of trying to be quick thinkers about the different things, and it's just so engaging. Whereas Kahoot, I do like that, but it's first of all very individual, and it's easy to kind of sit back and not participate. You can't really
and it rewards fastest finger.
Yeah, it really does. And so I do like that too, but Quizlet is so great to make sure every single person is engaged, and it's just like one of my favorite things.
And every time you show those pictures, it's awesome to see how much they collaborate, and they're not just at their table where they're comfortable. They're getting up, moving around, and doing these awesome things together. And every time you do Quizlet Live, you're just so jazzed.
Every single time. And I always want to post videos of what it looks like when you hit the button, after everybody's signed in and they do new groups, and everybody's rushing around and getting so excited about who's in their group, and just it forces kids to talk to kids that they wouldn't normally talk to as well, and just kind of get out of their comfort zone and work with different people, and you cannot sit back, you have to participate. And so I love that part of it. It's one of my favorite things. I do like Gimkit too, but it's just totally different. So
yeah, and you gotta have that right feel there. The high schools do use Quizlet Live a lot, and it's amazing. I'm not a big Kahoot fan just because it's just that fastest finger and that one kid that always has all those answers. And this way, it rewards the people talking to each other and talking about that one problem. Be who has that answer? And that's a genius play on Quizlet Live's part. I'm a big fan of Gimkit. Gimkit's a little different from Kahoot, where still individualized or teams, but you have all the answers on your screen. You kind of work at your own pace as you kind of go through it, versus one question at a time on the board and everyone answers that question.
Well, and I like the Gimkit part because of the strategies. Like,
Yeah.
what are some of those
The
again?
Thanos mode, money, like you can ice people, and Gimkit's awesome because he's probably 20 now, but he created this how he wanted to learn, and a 19-year-old kid created this website, and it's just kind of shaking up education, and still so many people don't know what Gimkit is. I'm like, have you used Gimkit? And people are like, no, what is Gimkit? I was at my PLC the other day, and they were just like, I've never heard of Gimkit. I'm like, Gimkit's amazing.
It really is. It really is. And I remember the first time that you're like, we get really fired up about things, and then we just keep talking about them. And so you kept saying, like, you need to do that. And I remember the reason I finally did was because my son had been in a class, and he was like, why are you not doing this? Mr. Lane does this, and it's amazing, and there's this and this, and you need to be doing this with your 8th graders. And so I was shamed into it that week. I think I did it like 2 days later.
No, that's awesome. Now, where'd you miss the mark this week?
Okay, so I really wanted to do this DNA origami, which I tried 2 years ago, like my first year when I was being observed. I did it for an observation, and I just remember it being such a nightmare. But I thought, I
Nailed it.
I know. I
You
nailed
roll
it.
the dice. That's what you do. You're
I
like,
did. So, I did it for my observation, and I remember just being sick to my stomach going, oh my gosh, that was such an epic fail. But, Dr. Tunis was very kind to me about that, and I got a lot of good feedback, and I grew from that. So I thought, I have a whole another year under my belt, and I'm going to revisit this. And yet again, it was still just such, it's just, there's a lot of areas that, the things just kind of did not line up. But the kids were so patient. I love my 3rd period. It's like that first class, it's always your guinea pig class. It's the class that you get all your kinks out with. And so I love their feedback, and I always talk those things through, and I just say, oh my gosh, this is not going so well. So like, what do you think I should say for next period? Like, how can I make it better? And, by the end of the day, it was so much better, but it was just so funny. And they just stuck with it. Like, I love this group of kids because they could have just said, like, are you kidding me right now? And just like put their head down and just been done. But they really didn't, very much like the fold scope whole thing, they just stuck with it. And so I want these beautiful DNA double helix spiral things, and they're not quite there yet. We ran out of time, but we're coming back to them, so it'll be fine.
all right, well, we'll be looking on Twitter for these completed DNA double helix.
Hashtag no pressure.
We're all on the edge of our seats. This week, I had a pretty great week. We always say make the weeks better. We love growing, trying new things. And this week, I rolled out this summer. We talked about earlier on one of our first episodes when we went to the CSTA conference about this Make Code arcade that they're rolling out. It's from Microsoft, and they have all these. They're huge into what do you say, the physical computing aspect of things, and
like
so
that arcade feel.
Yeah. So like, where you're taking your code and you're like actually doing something with things. And so I rolled out the MS Make Code arcade, and it's still in beta. So there's some glitches there, but the kids just absolutely loved it. We talked about retro gaming. What is an arcade? Back in the day where I could go to the arcade for 3 hours on $5, it was the best thing. That's the only reason I'd go to the mall as a kid. And we talked about the characters. It's basically a pixelated thing, but the cool thing is you can take your code and you can put it on the Meow Bits and the Adafruit Pie Gamers, which we're in the process of ordering and getting those, and there's a couple other ones. So basically you can take your code and you're playing on this like little Game Boy. Now, do you know how old the Game Boy is?
I don't.
You don't? Did you have a Game Boy?
No, it wasn't cool.
I did not have a Game Boy. Like, those were expensive.
They
were
were
like
really
$100.
expensive,
Like,
and we were very poor.
I was there. Yes, I fell into that category as well, and I was just always so jealous of those kids who had a Game Boy, and it always broke my heart. And I wish I had a Game Boy right now. But anyways, the Game Boy just turned 30. Just turned 30 years old.
30 years old.
30 years old, and it's so cool to kind of see what you can do now with your code and have it on this like kind of Game Boy thing. Me and you we both have a Meow Bit that we got.
Love those
and I
things.
was passing around showing the kids, and Ryan was like, "It's the princess game again." He's like,
love that
"I need a
thing.
new game on here." And it's just so cool that now that these kids are going to be taking their games, but these 2 7th graders, you design your characters with pixel art, and they pulled off the most amazing, and they're sitting right next to each other. They pulled off the most amazing Luigi and Mario in pixel form. I was just blown away by like what they were doing with their artwork. I
Yeah,
couldn't
because
get over
ours
it.
were pretty bad.
Yeah.
When we did ours, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I made a spaceship, and I was pretty happy there.
Okay, but it was pretty bad. I'm just saying. Yeah.
And no one is refuting that point. But these kids just blew me away, and it's just like when you give those opportunities, kids, they just do these awesome things, and they're trying different things. They're trying to do the backgrounds, and they're trying to add these different things. So I'm kind of excited for the next week coming up here to see what 6th, 7th, 8th grade do with the MS Make code and how they're getting excited. And my favorite thing was like that you could embed those on Google Sites, so it's like their games up there. And I want to put the QR codes on the wall so people can come up and scan them on the iPads. They're not as good as like when you have them, the actual code on the Meow Bits, but they're called Kitten Bots now, actually.
Yeah,
right? They changed their name. But it's so cool, like that, retro was in. Wreck-It Ralph was right, when he was talking about Q*bert, and Wreck-It Ralph is back.
Well, I just think those things are so cool because, it makes what you're doing, like being a creator of code, it makes it relevant. So you see, like a lot of the kids, they're making these games and stuff, and it is really fun, and people can come sit down on their, at their computers and play them. But then to be able to have something physical where you are, you walk around, and their game is mobile, so you can kind of take that and then walk around with it, and it just has a totally different vibe, and you're interacting with it. I don't know. Seeing the kids do that compared to when they're sitting down to a computer, it's a completely different experience, which I like to be able to have both of those for them.
And the fact that you can hand it off to somebody and give that like instant feedback was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, one place where I missed the mark. Now, Ryan, he's a 6-year-old, and he's quite the character sometimes. And he's in 1st grade. Bless his heart. I love this guy. He's my best buddy in the whole entire world. But we were getting ready one morning, and we had 2 pieces of bread left, and I walked away. I was trying to do something, and then I burned his toast, and he was not happy with me. So I was like, oh, this day's already off to an epic start. Last 2 pieces of bread, I burnt his toast. He went and touched those. He was so upset with me. But then my morning got better, because in this slew of chaos, I was getting his toothbrush ready, and I put my toothpaste on his toothbrush, and literally he was like a cartoon character come running around there, like fire coming out of his mouth, like you would have thought he was a cartoon character. And it was, and then like you have to recover and go teach and put all that behind you, and you're like, all right, we're ready to do this day, we're going to move on from this. But yeah, burnt toast and Crest toothpaste for a child.
Was that the same day, picture day, where you brought Mackenzie with wet hair, and I had to straighten her hair with wet hair?
That was, and I actually forgot his glasses.
His glasses, I was gonna say.
And all those things.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember that.
Yeah.
Like you were going to straighten Mackenzie's hair for picture day. And I didn't know, Dad failed there, that you're not supposed to get hair wet when you're straightening, and you were having quite the time.
Yeah, it
turned out amazing. She was super happy.
She looked very cute. I will say it wasn't just like a little damp; it was like straight up wet. So basically, I dried her hair with the hair straightener.
Every day the hair fairy visits her. I don't even know how her hair gets that crazy, but every day her hair is just a hot mess. And as we pull in, I realize Ryan doesn't have his glasses. My wife would have killed me that he went a day at school with those glasses, but let alone there would be proof on picture day that he didn't have his glasses. So I had to rush them to you. I'm like, go to Mrs. Scofield's room. Go. I'm going to go with the glasses. Minus the parking lot is like crazy on picture day. There's like volunteers coming to get their badges. So I survived. I mean,
you should get a T-shirt for that.
I should.
I survived picture day.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a typical week, and on top of that, this week, Sierra already hosted their business partners, and I'd say there was probably maybe 15, 20, 30. I don't know, my numbers are going up here. Maybe 25 people there.
It's like a big fish story right here.
So like this is the second year that they've done this, and last year we had a bunch of students there. Or is it the 3rd year? I think we did Paula's last year. Yeah, so like we've done like the Moxie Girls, kind of showing things off, doing like Spheros, robots, Dash and Dots. So we have like all these students. This year was a little less formal, and we just kind of put a slideshow up, and they came into the makerspace, and we had some student projects, and me and you just kind of were like, oh, we just want to kind of talk about the things we're doing and introducing the students to. And it was so cool to you know, like for us to look back and kind of like share, you know, we're just 2 teachers on our campus, and there's just so many amazing teachers on our campus doing awesome things that we got to kind of talk about all the things that we're passionate about, the students are doing. I showed off that one project. This one group made this like what do you call it? The flying swings, like, and they had to code it like where it was like safe, like this thing
with the EV3 blocks.
And of course, I hit the button, and you know the thing, and then we haven't used these for probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the thing was just like a death trap, like wrangled up. Pieces started falling off.
But it seemed very much like what you might see at a carnival.
Yeah.
So it seemed realistic.
But it was just like fun. Like we love talking to people in the industry. We love the business partners. So it was me and you just had a blast.
It was really fun. I loved that. And, it was cool because you do get to kind of like show what makes Sierra Verde different, like what we do at our school that is not typical, but you see like how that's affecting children's learning. So seeing those projects, but then you had some videos which were really cool showing like green screen technology and all the things that we really wanted to make our big focus this year, and seeing how kids are embracing that and what they're doing with it. And people were blown away 100%. And the merge cubes.
Yeah, you didn't originally have the merge cubes out there, and then you had Mackenzie run and get some iPads, and they were kind of blown away like with what you were doing with the merge cubes. Mackenzie and Ryan were helpers of that. They want to give up the iPads. I was like, let them try this, and they just want to kind of show like what the merge cubes look like.
Yeah, they were so cool.
It was so cool.
Yeah, I mean, and like we always go back to, we're very, very fortunate to have those kind of partnerships because community partnerships, PTSO partnerships, those allow us to do so many things that are the things that allow us to extend, just your typical classroom experience. So beyond, whatever is your normal thing, when it's those innovative ideas. And those things have been so huge, whether it's just like a green screen technology or something like that. The merge cubes were purchased from PTSO, and, we're incredibly grateful for those mini grants that we really tapped into, the last year or two.
And we love those. And you found out some sad news about the mini grants. You want to expand on that?
Well, I'm super grateful to PTSO. They've been huge supporters, and I know it's difficult to know how best to support, the school and teachers, but I guess they decided to, not do the mini grants anymore, which is tough for us.
And the mini grants they're amazing because like they're quick. They give you like $500 cash to do like your innovative project. And I remember I got that first EV3, the first NXT robot, way back in my first 3rd grade class with Sophie's group, which are 8th graders now. That was a $500 mini grant. I'm like, this is 6 years ago that I was like, I want to bring robots in the classroom within like the direct instruction. And now you see this 6 years later where there's just robots everywhere in every class, and all of these campuses, like there's drones, and just because of that one little mini grant, like that was able to spark like A, B, and C. Well,
and what I loved about the mini grants is that they were there for K all the way through 8th grade teachers. And like Tebow, the reading specialist, and the special ed department would utilize those. And so it was really something that every single person on our campus could access and benefit from. So it really helped all of our students. So that part's hard, and I guess we are going to be kind of more focused on teachers' wish lists, Amazon wish lists, which are awesome, and the donors choose projects.
Which take a lot of work.
So,
and you could be banned from them as well if you don't send thank you letters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's not based on a true story or anything, but so it's kind of hard just because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for teachers when you want to bring something that's innovative to your campus. So, you search for grants and you search for these opportunities to bring things. So last year, and I think you applied for it this year, APS was awesome, and they did those Supply My Classroom, is that what it was called? And I know they're doing it again this year, which was really incredible. So what I loved about that is literally you put your name and what you teach and where you teach into kind of like this lottery, and they just randomly picked you, and you you didn't even have to say what you were going to do with it. And like for you and I, we have like a wish list a mile long of things like, oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And so mine got selected last year, my name, and I got the drones. I got 5 drones from that.
And you're on the APS commercial,
And I was
which
in
is
the ABS
awesome.
commercial, yeah. And so that was really cool. And then, but
We also found out people were leaving comments on the YouTube video saying, drone, seriously?
I know, they were a little bit bitter. But here's the thing, you know, like it's something, I mean, think about all the different kids that benefited from the drones this last year, because you and I both use those in our STEM classes. And then we also use, you know, with the Moxie Girls, and just the culture of our school, you know, the drone conversation and the International Drone Day. And those were such a benefit. And, you know, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because every year we're going to be doing more and more of that. So I'm I'm pumped about that. But then APS is also offering a grant now, combined with the Suns. And so again, not super taxing. We have to write up kind of like a mini proposal and a budget, but I feel really grateful to grants like that. And there was the Wishes for Teachers, where it's pretty brief, like, hey, what's your vision in a small amount of, you know, 200 characters or something, you know, put it in a nutshell, and, you know, what's your vision, and what would that cost, and how would that benefit your school? And for us as teachers, when your time is so limited, to be able to partner with people that say, we believe in you, we'd like to see where you're going with this, and that's valid, but it's not going to require us to jump through a ton of hoops when you really don't have the ability time-wise to sit down and do that all the time. I think both of us are super grateful for that.
Yeah, and you know, you get this money, and then, like, you know, you do get a grant, then you have to go through, you know, approved vendors within the district, or sometimes, you know, there's only one place where these things sell, and you have to get the W-9, and then this has to be approved at the district purchasing office, and, you know, there's a lot of hoops that you go through, which, you know, like, if you don't have that time, like, you know, even for us, we're 2 people, and, like, we always talk about how fortunate we are that we get to do these things together. You're like, oh, I'll get that W-9, bring this to Kim, do this, and, you know, like, for those people that don't have that, it's a little bit overwhelming, and some people just, like, you know, wash their hands of it. They're like, it's just too much work to go through all that stuff and get quotes and get approvals and go back and forth there. You know, and Kim is, you know, she's our accounting clerk, and she's so amazing about getting everything lined up. She knows what day the checks are going out with the district, and she's truly amazing with everything that she helps us with get in our classroom, because she knows, like, once we get those funds, she wants those to be in our classroom as soon as possible. And, you know, we have some hoops that we have to go through, and we go back and forth. She's like, oh, I need this, this, and this. And we love everything that Kim does for us. And big shout out to Mrs. Tanner. Truly amazing. I had a maker bot just arrive this week. And, you know, that was like something like, you know, we got funds in the spring last year. And, you know, this is almost 6 months later to kind of go through those quotes. And, you know, that's on me too. Like, you know, being like, I just don't have time to sit down and get that ton of cool filament. I'm so excited. I was showing you some of the colors.
The coolest stuff.
I got the translucent colors. I got the glow in the dark. I'm just so excited about having all this filament. And so I feel like I'm starting to get to that print farm, but it takes a lot of work to get to that point. And we don't want to come off like, you know, we're attacking PTSO, because we love PTSO. There's not a bigger supporter. Every time on Twitter we're like, they did this, they did this. It's just sad, because when teachers have that spur of the moment idea and they want to get this grant in on a Tuesday, they'll get that in and they'll go to the meeting. And they've been so great about giving teachers what they want in that moment when they just come and explain. And we've had multiple grants go in there, and you just go in there, talk, and you're like, and you'll stand up for other teachers, and you're like, oh, they're not here, but this is what this teacher wants, and this is how it's going to benefit them.
Well, the hard thing for me is too, you know, realistically, you know, I teach 8th grade. And so the hard thing is that a lot of parents are not as much kind of like doing donations because, in all honesty, I mean, I have a sophomore in high school and I have a 7th grader, and you've been doing it for so long. And so I honestly get it. Like, I totally get that. But it's hard because the last thing that they're thinking is, what things can I donate at this point? Because they've already done that. They've done their time, and rightly so. So that kind of puts me in a position where I have to kind of find other outlets to do that, because I hate to ask for the parents. I am super, super grateful to, again, Myra Romano is huge. But in general,
Clear the list. Hashtag clear the list.
It's just really difficult because they've already been doing that. You get these kinder parents and the younger ones, and so that is awesome because it's brand new to them. So that so we've been trying to really branch out and find. Just today, how many grants did we put in?
Well, that's it. Both of us, we both completed the Fiesta Bowl, and the Fiesta Bowl is awesome. They give $5,000 to teachers. But it's not based off of like what you write. It's more of a luck of the draw kind of thing. And we encourage, like, we don't, we're so happy when people do these things. We try to get as many people to be like, take your shot. Like, what's Michael Scott's favorite quote?
Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, and you're thinking about hanging that up in the back of your classroom, Michael Scott. And so, like, we want as many people, because we want people to get that funding for their classroom. We're like, fill this in, take it out. Teachers have even filled that out. It takes probably 20 minutes tops to fill out the Fiesta Bowl. Teachers' wishes as well. Today, we also filled out the APS Phoenix Suns grant, which is $2,500. Mrs. Mayfield, she's a recipient of that on our campus, and she's got the Dash and Dots robots for that. So it's like, these things take time. And like now it's like the state of education in Arizona, it's like grants that they're so competitive now. Like me and you, my favorite baseball quote is, you can fail 7 out of 10 times and you'll be a Hall of Famer. And, our grant success rate is lower than 30%. It's probably in the single percentile.
We swing for the bleacher or for the stands every single time.
And so it's hard. Like, we're funding, like, we're schools, districts, they don't know where funding's coming from. Like, these grants, they're becoming harder and harder to get. And, we strike out a lot, and, we get down ourselves for a day. But then when we get the grants, like, we think of that CenturyLink grant that you found just going to a Suns game. Like, you went to a Suns game, found it sitting on a seat, and that was a national grant. And then you think about the impact of iPads and AR and, what you set out to do. And, like, this week we're going to talk about what you do with Minecraft. Just that grant of how impactful that is. And this 2 years later of those being in your classroom.
Those have completely changed everything in my classroom, just that one grant.
But it's so competitive, and the end of the month as well, you kind of get in this, like, everyone's back to school, and then you kind of see this flurry of grants that are there at the beginning of school. But teachers are so overwhelmed to even complete these grants, and, we're like, all right, let's get APS done today. You haven't hit the submit button yet.
No,
we also have the Diamondbacks. They give out $5,000 grants, but they give out 20 of those for, the entire state of Arizona. So you think of how tough that is. This is our 3rd year going for it. And you know what? We don't give up, like we see an opportunity, it's kind of like, trying to think of what's the Adam Sandler movie?
Which
where the cat goes missing, and he's like, "You don't give up. You go find that cat."
Is it Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison? I'm not sure.
I don't know. One of them. Billy Madison. Yeah. So it's just like, it's like, that's our mentality, and we want to do whatever we can to provide these opportunities, and just showing the kids 2 meow bits. We're like, we have more of these coming. We just put this order in with Adafruit, and we're so excited because they're gonna have their games in their hands.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait.
And we're always trying to be the first to do these things.
Well, just because we see the impact, and the thing is, I love these companies that are doing these grants, and that they are, trying to streamline that process. That's huge. But just that they are willing to invest in some things that are like kind of innovative. There's things that kind of take a leap of faith, and the one that you just put in is a pretty awesome one for the coding one. The one I'm trying to put in is for Rubik's Cube. Like, these are things that we're seeing kids benefit from. We're seeing what the potential is, and we're asking people to say, like, we're going to trust you that this is going to make an impact. And it's not typical, but it's necessary. It's allowing us to be able to teach things that they need to know for their future, which is something that we're both so passionate about.
But then it's also hard too, where we've oftentimes been like, do we play it safe?
Yeah.
Do we take a shot? Like you really never know, like, what are they looking for? Are they just going to be happy like funding iPads and Chromebooks, or do they want to kind of see that innovative idea? And we go back and forth, and I think we've come to the happy medium that we just take a shot like every single time. Well, we had our first appearance of Brady that you could clearly hear on the podcast. It's just, it's hard, we don't want to sound like we're curmudgeons because we work very hard for the things that we have. And, I feel like we're very fortunate, but it truly takes a team supporting all these measures and these ideas and, getting those things in the classroom. And again, when people come to my classroom, they're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, and this is not like school funded things. These are things that, that we were hoarders for, that we were collecting. We're like, oh, someone's getting rid of Legos, grab them, my son's getting rid of toys, bring them to the makerspace. Everything we do is like grants or, donations or finding things and, just, we're just being creative.
Right, like your green screen on the wall, like that. You got green paint, and we
that was
painted
out of pocket. That one hurt.
Okay, well, yeah. But
I wasn't happy when you told me I needed the primer. You're like, you need the primer, and that was like $30 a gallon.
Really awesome. It did turn out. But even so, then you realize, okay, so you have to hustle. You have to like find all these things. Then you have to find the funds, and then you have to find vendors that you can work with, and we're kind of handcuffed by laws on certain things. So no Amazon, no certain things, and so you try and find the vendors that you can go with, and then on top of that, then you're trying to find the ways that you can get the quotes in your spare time, and then Kim's been amazing with getting those things pushed through. But then even that, like the heat press, like we've wanted the heat press for 2 years at least, and so we finally get one in stock in the budget.
We'll talk a little about the roller coaster ride you've been on with these people.
Yeah, it's been insane because we tried to get the heat press at the end of last year, and we found one, and we want like this one that's like the Cadillac of heat presses, so it's multifunctional, and we want to be able to do all these different things with it. And so we find one, and I go to get a quote for it, and it's out of stock. So then that's fine. So we kind of put a pin in that. First thing when we get back, we're back to it, and back and forth about this. And finally I get the quote for it, and purchasing at the district level needs they need an invoice. And unfortunately, the company doesn't do things that way. And so, we could have so many times, we could have just said, this is just not in the stars for us. But we didn't. We kept saying, like, what if? But then what we needed is, what we have from Kim, who took it on herself and called the company and talked to this guy. And
tell them what they said to you in your last email. Remember, they're like, we can't do this until we have the check.
Yeah, so they need the check, so we need to make the purchase, and then they can do the invoice. Well, we needed it to be backwards. We needed it to be the opposite way, and it was pretty much like, so that's the answer. It's a done deal. So I was feeling pretty discouraged, and I said something, kind of to that fact, like, is this dead in the water?
You did. You were like waving the white flag for a little bit.
I was so disappointed, and then
but Kim Tanner came through.
Kim Tanner for the win. So she was like, no, I think there's a way. So she took it upon herself. She called the company. She talked to a guy. They worked out some way to make this work, which was amazing. And not only that, but at the district level, their purchasing people were working hand in hand with Kim as well, trying to make this go through. So people saying, like, this is not typical. Nobody's really asking for these. So there's no protocol for this, but let's work all together. What our vision is, what Kim's visions, what her needs are, and what the district needs, and they all work together with this company to make this a green lighted item. And it's just like, we're so excited, we're so grateful because it took our whole tribe to come together to make this work. But oh my gosh, there's so many times we could have walked away.
So many times, and nobody works harder on your preps than you when it comes to these things. Like, you'll come with like a list. You're like, this isn't this, and so many of your preps have been dedicated to this. And you think of other teachers that just don't have that, that drive or that time. Like, we always talk about the most important thing for teachers is their time. We talk about PLC model, and you get kind of backtracked in like one little thing. Like even this thing, it's like, this has been like 5 different attempts, and you're like, okay, it's just not going to happen. Like, we're going to walk away from this, and lo and behold, something happened there.
Yeah.
And again, I just feel like this is something that, like our podcast is talking about teachers' lives, the things we go through. And, it's not like a true reality show behind the scenes, but, we want to be transparent and open and talk about how hard, like, we work to get these things and the things that we have to overcome. And we hope that when you listen to these things, you're not discouraged. And we absolutely love everything the district does, and they've been amazing working for every piece of technology that we've gotten, as well as everything Tony, our principal, and Kim has done for us. It's been truly amazing. I just can't say enough of like how fortunate we are, but it does take a lot of work.
It takes a whole team. I mean, it does take a whole team and it takes people not giving up on a dream. All of our podcast equipment, there's so many things, drones and the heat press and the merge cubes and the robots and your Kiva planks. There's just so many things where a
lot of back and forth with those too.
A lot of back and forth.
They're wood planks.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think there'd be so much back and forth for some wood planks.
It's true. It's true. And when you look at that and you see it was worth it, it was worth the time that it took for every single grant, every single thing that we've gone for, because you see what the kids do with that. And it really does make it, it's one of those things that you're like, okay, I see the fruits of the labor. But you are really grateful that you have people that are backing your vision, because it is so hard and exhausting to be hustling for all these things. And there's been a big thing on Twitter about why are teachers teachers having to do these clear the list? It's heartbreaking that there's teachers that are just asking for pens and basic supplies, and it's pretty hard. It's humbling, because if they don't advocate for themselves, if they don't advocate for what they know that their students need in the classroom, then it's not going to be funded, and it's pretty frustrating.
And the Clear the List program was started by a former teacher who went back to corporate America and understands what it's like to be inside the trenches there and doing all these things. And it's easy. It's a click of a button. So these teachers are popping something on their Clear My List on their Amazon teacher account, and these people from all the world are just sending them to their classrooms. And with a click of a button, you don't have to write, donors choose is great, don't get me wrong, but then that takes time as well. It's you got to do 30 individual letters, you can't send pictures of kids and promote, so it's a lot of work, but we want to switch gears and talk about something so awesome. So on one of my mornings, I was getting out of my car with my crew. We always jump out of the back of the STEM mobile, and my kids jump out the back, and Carla, Mrs. O, our amazing librarian,
love her,
media specialist, she pops
extraordinaire.
out. She pops out and she says, I've been listening to Nailed It Wall. I haven't listened to all of them, but I absolutely love it. And I was just so excited because she just had such a zest in her step. And she was like, when we started this out, we were just going to be so excited if, our parents were listening to these podcasts. And we're going to do it no matter what, because we just love talking about our week. And we can always look back, even I go back and read the recaps, and I absolutely love it. And I get excited about the things that we've already done. And she was just so excited. She was so geeked up. And you had to run to the bathroom one morning, and she just wanted to keep telling you about
oh my gosh.
things.
She was super, super excited. And not only was she just saying, what you were just saying, I love the podcast, but then it was details about the things that she liked. And you can tell that she really was, number one, invested, a fan of it, and cared enough to give specific feedback of the things that she was getting from it, questions that she had, what is CS, and there was another term that we used,
Flipgrid.
Yeah, there were things that she was asking about, and she said, I'm going back and I'm going in order because I feel there's things that you guys build on, but it was just so cool because our whole thing was we knew we wanted to talk about things from our perspective, but our vision was always that it would be a community thing. We wanted it to be the community that of our people, our school and our district, and it very much has become that with Sheer, and and I'll let you talk about your former principal, but it's now becoming part of a voice for the people that we're working with, and kind of a way to showcase what we see in our lives, and she's part of that. She's part of the fabric of our podcast now, and so it made meant
It
so
did
much
pump
to
us
both
up.
of
We got
us.
so excited, and she's like, I just loved all of our feedback, and we're pretty critical on ourselves, and we're like, oh, we said and a lot in the beginning, and we're like, really focusing on that. She's like, oh, I didn't notice that,
No,
and
didn't notice it at
but
all.
then it made us like really be like, all right, when we talk about these things, we need to do a better job describing exactly what they are, so these people can kind of roll these things out in their classroom as well.
Yeah. Well, and even though because I told him not to expect it, but we do get a lot of feedback lately. Like people will come up to us and talk to us about the podcast, whether it's fellow teachers, different things. I know Dr. Finch was in your class this week.
Yep.
And so
I told him I'd pencil him in.
Yeah.
He's like, send me an email. We'll get him on the
Yeah,
podcast.
future. And, we put our plug in with the business partners, but we do have another student, Ramon, who's been one of our biggest fans, and will give specific feedback again about like his favorite episodes and where he is with each one. And he's been keeping up, and he'll touch base. And so that really means the world to us. It means the world to us that kids are taking ownership and the things that we're talking about, it has value in their lives. And we greatly appreciate our faithful listeners like that.
Totally. And one of my highlights was the moment Ramon busted out his iPad.
Yeah.
He showed me how he subscribed. He showed me like what episodes he's gotten to in certain parts. And just Ramon's an awesome kid, and it's just like so cool that students are listening to the behind the scenes of like student stories, teacher stories. As they kind of share, and I just had so much fun last week with Share. It's just the whole week. It's we just love the people that we get to interact with and see at conferences and share things and bump into at Barrows. Myers, we got our man Dennis Myers on here.
I
That'd
just
be
saw
hilarious.
him at the Ridge game last night
Did
again.
you?
Yeah, he's like Waldo. Like literally, that guy's in every picture. I love it.
Like that guy. Like
I don't think he sleeps.
I don't think he does either. I literally had like a 30-minute PLC as I was waiting for my pizza at Barrows, talking about all these different things, and he's like, I gotta get in your PLC. It's like we gotta make time to get over there, and just like these people, and like so many people. Like even we went to the cafeteria. Schubert was like so upset. She's like Cher was on campus. She didn't even come to see me. She's like, I didn't know she was gonna be here, but we just love those people. We love sharing those stories. And it's just so much fun. Like I love having guests on, but I love talking to you as well. You're a solid
Thanks.
replacement.
Thanks.
But we just have so much fun sharing those stories, and just sitting down with Cher and Sophie and Lori, and just and we want to share those stories and like how we're all connected, and it kind of comes back to there.
Well, and then that's a perfect segue because we're going to SciTech this week, the kickoff, and that's again a place that we tend to like run into our people. We usually see Hillary Mitchell. I don't know what capacity she'll be in since she's not doing First Lego League anymore, but Jessica Hickey from Create Space, and Brian Hoffner, all these people that we typically see at these things, and it's kind of like that gathering of mutual interests and that passion, and it's kind of a fun reunion, and a lot of those people we would love to have on the pod as well.
Totally.
I know we agree on that.
That's the thing. Like we want, Dr. Finch is going to be on. We want to get the superintendent of Maricopa. We just love talking to people and having their voice out there, and we just have a blast that people are enjoying it, and we love doing it. We get excited every week for the podcast, how it listens. You like to listen to it first thing on Tuesday morning when it comes out. I like to kind of space it out because I get depressed. I'm like, oh man, I was like when I listened to the Share one, I think it was done by Thursday. I had to listen to 3 different dog walks, and at the end I was like, man, I could have listened to that for another half an hour, just listening to her stories, listening to us laugh together. And it's fun to kind of see how we've grown, in all these different things that we do.
Well, the other cool thing about the Share thing is I think what we both really love about those connections with other teachers is, so we met her through our Google class, which was awesome. And then, we've stayed in touch, loosely through Twitter, and us basically stalking her that way, and then having her on the pod. But then even just this week, another teacher, Jody Chesbro, sent me a writing opportunity for kids to write a sci-fi writings, like some kind of a thing to submit for a contest. And so I, brought it to my students. I immediately thought of one student, and she's going to actually take it on. But then it occurred to me I should send that to Cher too. And sure enough, she has already got somebody in mind, and so she's going to roll it out for her. So just the connection, what what that means for us as teachers, and like being able to, so it's helpful for us, right? So we benefit as teachers, but then our students benefit, because like you just spread all these ideas and
Sharon
opportunities.
is Karen.
Yes, right.
Well, then like when me and you were, I told you I was doing a PLC. I'm like, I'm going to make everyone do the Fiesta Bowl wishes for teachers. And then I sent that this year, I sent that off, CC'd you on it. And then Sheer came back and we're like, we're going to hold you to this and you're going to do this. And just imagine what you could get for books
totally
or technology. And I was like, don't overthink it. Telling that to a write-in ELA teacher is not the best advice. I was like, just kind of go with it. But then she comes back to us and sends on Google Classroom, now you can do popsicle sticks. Or like what was that feature called?
Name drawer.
Random name drawer.
Like that, yeah.
And so she's like, I've been using this, and this is something we didn't even know. And like you're like, oh, I could start using this, and now I'm like, I call on, like I want to use that, and so it's like just you share that, something else comes back, and you don't have no clue how many people we're going to take that new little feature to, and kind of teach them how to use that.
I know. We love our people. We love our people.
We do. Well, we have an amazing week starting up here. So we're going to be off campus on Tuesday at AZ SciTech, but your baby's starting up here. So on Monday, it's going to be your first Moxie Girls meeting. How many girls do you have signed up right now?
So right now I officially have 15. I haven't heard back. Well, sign-ups are a little bit dicey when kids are taking that on themselves. And so there's about 5 that I haven't heard back from the previous year. But I also don't know, like typically when we've done Moxie, we usually have, I don't know, anywhere from 2 to 5 kids that show up late, that still want to do it. So, I mean, what it's looking like is anywhere from 15 to 20 kids. Definitely 15, which is
15 amazing kids.
Really amazing kids. And you just feel like you hit the lottery, because they all just have a similar heart for just authenticity and like the excitement of just being able to geek out with technology. And they don't necessarily have the background or they're not all like these strong leaders, but almost every one of them, that's like an area that they want to grow in. And I just am super excited. Like just the transformations that we've seen with girls, when you put them together and you give them these opportunities, what we've seen has just been mind blowing. So I feel super, super lucky.
Can you go back, go and taking a page out of Carla's playbook? Can you explain what Moxie Girls are and what they represent?
Oh my gosh.
Just for our first-time listeners.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a whole thing on that. But, Moxie Girls is a club that we started, 4 years ago?
This is year 5 already?
I'm really hazy on
that. So Ella was in 7th grade her first year. So 7, 8, Ella. Last year was...
So I think this is our 4th year.
4th year. Okay, right? So year 4 starting up.
Yeah, so, but we did kind of loosely start it the end of the year prior to that. So definitely, to get middle school girls, originally we focused, our focus was computer science, but showing computer science is a broader topic than just sitting down to code. Very much like computational thinking and kind of problem solving and the collaboration, soft skills. And then I think when we
togetherness,
that sisterhood kind of interact, teamwork type of thing. But then, and I think it kind of ended up kind of creating itself. I think Moxie basically evolved into what it needed to be on its own, which we realize is very much like a STEAM kind of concept, very much interlaced with computer science. And so, because we did a lot of like engineering things and it kind of is more of that, the drone things, but very much computer science as well. And we've had great experiences. We dabbled a little bit one year, just limiting to 7th, 8th. We went back to the 6th, 7th, 8th, and just the amount of mentorship with the older girls for the younger girls has been huge. And then mentors in the STEM fields from last year we had a primatologist, which I didn't even know that was a thing, who works with chimpanzees and all kinds. Worked with Bubbles from Michael Jackson's ranch, and just super cool. And then one Mrs. Grabham's sister in New York, walking around the streets of New York talking about her job and using technology. We went on a field trip to McDOT, so Maricopa County, like the equivalent of ADOT, but for Maricopa County, which was a phenomenal experience for the girls. And And
talk about what you have planned for this year. Where are you guys planning? Are you
So
still working
it's-
out the kinks here?
Yeah, so Microsoft, one of the parents, that's the thing. Like, that's why I say I feel like Moxie is going to let us know what it's supposed to be, because we don't necessarily plan everything out. It kind of like things unfold and opportunities come to us. And so, that's very much how, International Drone Day came about for us. Someone brought that to us, Mrs. Grabham. And so this year we're going to go to Microsoft's headquarters in, like, what is it? Did they say?
Tempe,
Yeah,
or it's
Tempe.
like the other side of the valley.
Yeah.
Talk about an amazing opportunity for
Oh my
girls
gosh.
though, and like they're gonna like get like all like the senior headquarter
Yeah.
like corporate like leaders, like team leaders, like that are females.
Yeah, and then what was it? Choice Hotel last year, and then partnered with Women Who Code, I think is who it was. They were doing a conference, and that was like one of the most amazing experiences ever. And that just fell into our laps based on a parent, kind of taking an active role. And one I would really like to do, and I know that this is something that we've been wanting to go up and do together, but I'd love for the girls to see Westmec and just kind of like put that on their horizons. There's a lot of campuses, but the one up by Tolleson is phenomenal, and it's all coding, and just all kinds of stuff like that. But that one is amazing, and I would love to put that on the radar. But like, I don't even know. Like, you and I, when we go into a school year, we have no idea what we're going to do, because we're kind of like, well, let's see what comes to us. And Mox is very much like that. We have loose plans, but I want the girls to have ownership. We're going to try some challenges, and just kind of see where the year takes us.
That's why, like, today you're like it's gonna be a great year, and I'm like, it's already is a great year. I'm like, we have the podcast up, we've been doing these things, we're so excited, we're trying out new things, and you're going back and forth. You're like, do I do the LA build? Is that just too much? And like, I'm like, you'll figure it out. You still have time to kind of like work those kinks out. And the greatest thing about Moxie Girls is Google's done tons of research about the number one most impactful thing for these young girls like pursuing a STEM or computer science career is like seeing females like in those roles, in those positions. And what you do with the mentors is like truly amazing to inspire these girls. And one of my favorite stories is when we had a pilot, like when those girls walked in that day, I don't think a single girl ever thought about, sitting in the cockpit, flying a plane and flying around the world.
She was so cool.
And,
she is
and
so cool.
when they walked out, like every single girl was like, I don't know what kind of pilot I want to be. I don't know what kind of plane I want to fly. And it was so cool to kind of like hear those conversations, just from having that time to sit there with a pilot.
Yeah, the craziest thing about that though is not only does so you have the professional female mentors, and they're so hugely impactful, and that's like what all the data is showing. But the coolest thing is on all those applications that I got, I would say half of the Moxie Girl applications, when I said something like, why do you want to be a Moxie Girl? So many of them said, I've been wanting to do this when I saw this club start, or when I saw girls from it 3 years ago. And like almost every single girl was talking about like the girls that they saw go through it. And you think about the power of that role model situation, and that they are mentors now. And ideally what I'd like to have happen is have like a Moxie Mentor Monday once a month, where you invite former Moxies to come, and ones that have time, because the beautiful thing about Moxie Girls is they tended to be pretty well versed in a lot of things. They're active in sports and different things, piano or different things. And I love that about them. And so they're busy, but there's at least a couple, each month that could do that. And just their impact, because they're the reason that these young girls want to do this. And they don't necessarily, when they get to high school, they don't always have the outlets that they had back in the club with us. And so I think it would be so beneficial. I know that when Ella and Sid and Monsi, and I had a slew of girls come last year to help for our first Lego League, and they just lit up, because it was like they remembered doing all these things, and they got excited, and they loved it, and they were good at it. And so they could really share their experiences and have that benefit those new girls, which was cool.
Just beautiful. And you already kind of do this, like when they kind of come back and like work with them and kind of help out them, but like even like with the current Moxie Girls, like how students look up to them and are paying attention to the things that they're doing, and they get excited about this. I'm excited about this Microsoft trip. I can't wait to hear about it. I think think that's going to be something that stays with them for the rest of their lives.
Totally.
And, who knows what it could inspire from that.
Well, that's the beauty, is you don't know what it's going to be for each individual girl. You don't know what that connection is going to be. So the year that we had the Cat and Jack clothing designer person, you don't know who that's going to inspire, and you don't know if it's the pilot, or when we had Thess and Monaco bring the Z Space and you introduce them to the world of virtual reality, what that's going to open up, or drones. There's so many different avenues that females are underrepresented in, and you don't know what things you might spark, but you're hoping that it just broadens their horizons about the possibilities.
And like you said, the possibilities and the opportunity to work together. And, you do such a great job of, building that culture, getting them excited. Now, you made a big shift in the culture of Moxie this year. Do you want to touch on your decision, why you're stepping away from FLL? And FLL stands for First Lego League.
Oh,
I know it's pulling at your heartstrings a little bit.
It is killing me, because I absolutely love and believe in, I love that program. I believe in everything that they're about. And I loved bringing teams that were all girls to Lego robotics, because there's just not a lot. However, just even since we started doing, bringing those teams of girls, we saw, an increase in that, which is nice. But like the Moxies are very much a big part of that, inspiring those other girls.
And Hillary Mitchell was great, for always supporting those girls and sharing their story, and really promoting what Moxie was and what it represented.
It's hard because, again, when you're just one person and you're trying to do you need to have at least, if I have 20 girls this year, I would have to have probably at least 2 teams. Realistically, it could be 3, depending on how much you want each girl involved. And so that's 3 different projects you have to do, 3 different robots running codes, and you're monitoring all those different aspects of the project, and it's a big undertaking. People aren't doing that many teams typically on their own. And not only that, but last year I had almost an entire fresh, clean slate of Moxies, so they had no prior experience. So to run 2 different groups with 2 different projects and stuff, they did phenomenally well. I was incredibly proud of them. But it's a lot. It's expensive.
It is expensive, and it truly does take 2 people to run a team, and the season's long.
And the season is long.
The season starts the second you get back to school, and it could run into mid-January. Mm-hmm. It's a long season, and it takes a lot of them. And last year, when you did your reflections with them, and you talked about their highlights, a lot of them just pointed to FLL, mm-hmm. but then you kind of step back and you're like, well, it's because that's what we did.
That's what they knew.
50-60% of the club was First Lego League, and it's truly amazing. But it takes a village. You talk about what we talked about, people working together and pull that off. It takes a lot to go through the ups and downs of a FLL season.
Well, and a lot of people are meeting somewhat more frequently than what we are able to do. And what we want to do for the girls is, stop it.
No, keep going. No, stop it, dude. We're finished up live here.
Okay.
All right, finish your
All
thought.
Right. So, sorry.
I just flashed a 2 minutes here.
Yeah, I don't know what that stands for.
We try to keep every podcast 60 minutes and under.
Okay.
And, all right. Well, we could say we'll end it on that. We know Moxie is going to have an amazing year. We look forward to kind of hearing all these awesome stories as you come back and share this. I love what you tweeted the other day about what one of the Moxie girls had in the application about. She wants to change the world. I got goosebumps reading that.
That was amazing.
But it's safe to say this might be our first podcast we've ever recorded in the midst of a haboob, aka a natural disaster here.
That's true.
Again, Ryan was perfect again on his second appearance of the podcast. You did not hear a peep from him. Brady, not so much.
Yeah.
But
he's kind of a diva.
He was in and out here, but I'm excited. We got a big week ahead of us.
We
got SciTech. We can't wait to come back and talk about all the cool things, the people we saw. The new people we met, we get excited now. We're all gonna be like, who would be a great guest on the Nailed It wall?
That's true. I know there's so many possibilities, and we're just waiting. Again, we wait to see how things unfold.
Exactly. If we see you at SciTech, be prepared. You might be the next guest on the Nailed It wall. All right, we're gonna end it right there, people. Have an amazing week and keep changing the world. If you're like us and you can't get enough of the Nailed It wall, you can follow us on Twitter. You can find me at Mr. Lane the STEM Guy.
And me at a positive proton.